What if I told you some cars aren't just vehicles? They're survivors of time itself. Machines so over-engineered they outlive their designers, their competitors, and sometimes even entire civilizations. Today, we're counting down the greatest cars ever built to last forever. When it comes to cars, durability isn't just about longevity, it's about trust. Think of the Mercedes taxis in Morocco still running after 600,000 miles, or the Toyota Hilux that Top Gear tried to destroy but couldn't. Even Volvos crossing the million-mile mark prove that true engineering outlives trends. Today, we're counting down the toughest cars ever built. Which one do you think deserves the crown of immortality? Jeep Cherokee XJ, 1984-2001. The Jeep Cherokee XJ wasn't just another SUV, it was a rebellion against fragility. Born in the 1980s, the XJ introduced a unibody lighter, stiffer, and tougher than old-school body-on-frame trucks. Its secret weapon? The 4-Manual inline-six engine, practically immortal, often crossing 300,000 miles with maintenance that amounted to oil, filters, and hope. In rural America, mail carriers swore by the XJ. The US Postal Service bought thousands because these Jeeps could crawl through snow, mud, and gravel day after day without giving up. Even when road, flooded, or abused, many were fixed with basic tools and sent back out. Today, XJ Mafia groups online treat them like cult icons, bragging about 500,000-mile survivors. The XJ wasn't flashy, but it was unkillable, an SUV that outlasted the trend it started. Mercedes-Benz W123, 1976-1985. In Morocco, there are taxis that have logged over 600,000 miles on their original Mercedes W123 engine. That fact alone could end the day. But the W123 is so much more. Mercedes engineers went overboard with steel thickness, build quality, and simplicity. Doors shut like vaults, dashboards aged gracefully, and the legendary OM617 diesel. Engine ran forever. Many W123s passed 1 million miles without drama. Taxi fleets from Nigeria to Germany used them for decades because they simply refused to die. Mercedes actually lost money producing them. These cars were so overbuilt, but their accountants hated them. After the apocalypse, when all else has crumbled, expect cockroaches, Keith Richards, and the W123 still puttering along. Toyota Hilux pickup, 1979-1995. If you've ever watched Top Gear, you've seen the Hilux tortured, drowned in the sea, set on fire, crushed by a collapsing building, and then driven away as if nothing happened. Toyota's engineers applied their Kaizen philosophy relentlessly. Every weak point was redesigned until nothing could break it. The 20QR and 22 re-engines were masterpieces of bulletproof simplicity. Farmers, soldiers, and adventurers swore by them. In war zones, Hilux trucks became infamous because they were the only vehicles that could keep moving with minimal support. Many are still running in Africa and the Middle East decades later, often patched together with little more than determination and duct tape. The Hilux isn't a truck, it's a survival. Buick LeSabre, 1992-1999. While flashy imports grabbed headlines, the Buick LeSabre quietly conquered America's highway. Powered by GM's 3.8L V6, a motor so reliable that Consumer Reports once called it the best tested engine ever, the LeSabre was a sedan built for endurance, not excitement. Taxi fleets, traveling salesmen, and retirees adored it. Stories of LeSabres crossing 400,000 miles aren't rare, they're expected. Insurance companies loved them because they rarely broke down. Mechanics, however, joked that these cars stole business. For families in the 90s, the LeSabre was less about luxury and more about peace of mind. A car that always started, always drove, and never quit. Toyota Land Cruiser FJ60, 1980-1990. No list is complete without the Land Cruiser. The FJ60 wasn't fast or glamorous, but it was unstoppable. Its straight-six engines were agricultural in nature, understressed, simple, and designed for it. Humanitarian agencies like the United Nations bought fleets of them because they absolutely had to work, even in war zones. Land Cruisers carried doctors through jungles, relief workers across deserts, and explorers into mountains. Some have clocked over 1 million miles with original drivetrain. In many developing nations, the FJ60 is more than a car, it's a lifeline. Today, clean survivors sell for absurd amounts because owners know This is the closest thing to a truly unkillable machine. Honda Accord, 1986-1989. Honda in the 80s was obsessed with perfection. The third generation Accord reflected this obsession. Engines so carefully built they often outlasted the cars themselves. The fuel injection system was simple and foolproof, the interior sturdy, and the mechanical parts accessible for DIY mechanics. In Cuba, where cars survive only through ingenuity, Accords earned the nickname Forever Cars. Owners reported 300,000, 400,000 miles with nothing more than oil changes and timing belt swap. Unlike many mid-sized sedans of the era, the Accord didn't rust into oblivion within a decade. It soldiered on, a testament to Honda's belief that reliability wasn't it was a duty. Volvo 240, 1974-1993. The Volvo 240 looked like a refrigerator on wheels, but inside that boxy shape was near immortality. The B21 and B23 engines were designed to withstand abuse few engines survive. Volvo tested them by running without oil until they seized, then improved them further. Stories of million-mile 240s are real. In the US, Irv Gordon famously drove his Volvo P1800 cousin to over 3 million miles, but many 240s crossed the million mark too. The 240 sounds. The 240 was a political statement in places like Portland and Berkeley, a car for people who didn't care about status, only about something that would start every day. Safe, solid, eternal. The Volvo 240 became a cultural icon of endurance. Ford, Crown Victoria, 1992-2011. If the Crown Vic could talk, it would tell stories of high-speed chases, endless taxi runs, and being crashed into brick walls only to drive away. Powered by Ford's indestructible 4.6L V8, the Crown Vic was engineered to survive the worst drivers in America, police officers and cabbies. Police departments loved it because it could idle all day with lights running and never overheat. Taxi fleets adored it because 500,000 miles wasn't unusual. Even today, more than a decade after production ended, Crown Vics are still patrolling small towns. When Ford killed it, police departments stockpiled extras for parts. Proof of its legend Chevrolet Suburban, 1973-1991. Long before SUVs were mall crawlers, the Chevy Suburban was a working-class beast. Built on truck frames with lazy, understressed V8s, the Suburban was designed for hauling families, tools, and livestock across America. Its frames could handle abuse that would snap modern SUVs in half. Construction crews, oil workers, and ranchers swore by that. Some Suburbans from the 1980s are still in daily use with over 500,000 miles. Their interiors battered but their drivetrains unbothered. The Suburban is the longest continuously produced vehicle nameplate in the world for one reason. It works. Always has. Always will. Dodge Ram Cummins Diesel, 1989-1993. When Dodge stuffed a Cummins 5.9L turbo diesel into its pickups, it changed the truck world forever. Designed for commercial rigs, this engine was rated for 1 million miles in heavy-duty service. In a pickup, it was almost impossible to wear out. Farmers and haulers adored it. Some owners reported better fuel economy after 200,000 miles, as if the engine was only warming up. Even rusted-out Rams were valuable because the engines alone could be swapped into newer trucks. Today, enthusiasts pay thousands just for a 12-valve Cummins motor. This wasn't just a truck, it was a legend in the making. What made the first-gen W88 Dodge Cummins Special wasn't just raw toughness, it was timing. By the late 1980s, Ford and Chevy dominated the pickup market, but neither offered a diesel this stout. Dodge, struggling with sales, took a gamble by partnering with Cummins. That gamble paid off spectacular. Suddenly, farmers who once dismissed Dodge came running to dealerships because here was a truck that could tow mountains, last forever, and still return decent fuel economy. Many first-gen Rams are still on the road, proudly wearing faded paint, cracked dashboards, and 1 million miles under their belts. Owners love to joke that the truck falls apart around the engine, but that Cummins keeps pulling. In forums, it's common to see pictures of odometers rolling past 500,000 miles like it's just another Tuesday. The 12-valve Cummins did just give Dodge an edge. It created a cult following that thrives to this day. Saab 900, 1978-1993. Saab engineers had aviation DNA, and it showed in the 900. The turbocharged engines were overbuilt, the body solid, and the quirks unforgettable, like the ignition between the seats for anti-theft protection. In Scandinavia, the 900 became a winter survival, starting at 40 degrees forward when others froze solid. Many 900s crossed 300,000 miles easily. Their interiors, built for comfort and safety, kept drivers warm through brutal winters. Today, finding a clean Saab 900 Turbo is like uncovering buried treasure. They represent a time when engineers designed cars like aircraft, built for survival, not just style. But what made the Saab 900 so special was the way it mixed toughness with innovation. It was one of the first mainstream cars to successfully use turbocharge, and Saab did it with reliability in mind. The 2.0-liter turbo engines could deliver spirited performance, yet last for decades if maintained properly. The sloping windshield and wraparound cockpit weren't just stylish. They came from Saab's aviation, designed for maximum visibility and safety. Owners formed deep emotional bonds with these cars. In Europe and the US, Saab clubs are still active, swapping parts and stories of cars with 400,000 miles still running strong. Mechanics often joke that Saabs might look quirky, but they were built like tanks. And because Saab was a small, independent company, every 900 felt like a product of passion rather than corporate compromise. In short, the Saab 900 wasn't just indestructible, it was individualistic. It symbolized resilience, creativity, and a stubborn refusal to conform, making it one of the most unkillable cars ever made. Mercedes-Benz W126 S-Class, 1979-1991. Luxury cars usually sacrifice durability for comfort, but the W126 was different. Mercedes poured absurd resources into building an indestructible limousine. Its paint was layered like fine art, its doors shut like vaults, and its engines were under-stressed masterpieces. Even decades later, many W126s run as taxis in Africa and the Middle East with 500,000, 600,000 miles. Owners report that with regular oil changes, they only get better with age. Mercedes lost money selling them, but the reputation it built was priceless. The W126 proved luxury and immortality could coexist. What made the W126 so remarkable wasn't just the engineering, but the philosophy behind it. Mercedes engineers believed the S-Class should be the global benchmark, so they over-engineered every detail. Suspension components were made stronger than necessary, electrical systems were designed for redundancy, and even the climate control was built to survive decades of use in scorching deserts or freezing European winters. Heads of state, diplomats, and CEOs trusted the W126 because it was reliable even under the most stressful conditions. Many armored versions, and these too have outlived expectations, still in service decades later in parts of Africa and Eastern Europe. The W126 also represented an era when Mercedes wasn't just building cars, but building trust. Buyers knew they were purchasing something that would outlast trends, outlast accountants' compromises, and possibly even outlast them. It wasn't about flashy gadgets or fragile technology, it was about timeless quality. Today, collectors and enthusiasts still search for clean W126 examples, often paying more than you'd expect for a car that can be 40 years old. Why? Because they know this S-Class wasn't just luxury, it was engineered immortality. Toyota Corolla. With over 50 million sold worldwide, the Corolla is the undisputed global workhorse. In many countries, they're still on the road after 30 plus years thanks to bulletproof engines and simple parts availability. Taxi fleets from Manila to Mexico City love them because they refuse to die. Peugeot 504. In Africa, the 504 became legend. Its soft suspension handled brutal dirt roads. Its diesel engines ran forever, and parts could be fixed with hand tools. Even today, decades after production ended, many 504s still run as bush taxis in West Africa. VW Beetle, the people's car, wasn't powerful, but it was nearly unbreakable. Its air-cooled engine was so simple you could fix it on the side of the road with basic tools. Over 21 million Beetles were built, many still buzzing along around the world. So what do these cars teach us? First, simplicity often beats complexity. The vehicles that survive decades aren't the ones overloaded with sensors and fragile electronics. They're the ones you can repair with a wrench and determination. Second, over-engineering matters. When companies like Mercedes or Toyota ignored bean counters and built cars to survive abuse, they created legends. Finally, stories create immortality. A Toyota Hilux surviving a demolition, a Moroccan Mercedes taxi with 1.2 million miles, a Crown Vic chasing criminals after 20 years. These tales elevate machines into myths. Modern cars may be faster, more efficient, and packed with tech, but few will inspire the same reverence. Maybe that's the true lesson. When we build things to last, we don't just create machines, we create trust, reliability, and memories that outlive us. Now I want to hear from you. What's the highest mileage car you've ever owned? Was it a Toyota, a Volvo, or something completely unexpected? Drop your story in the comments below. If you love this journey into automotive immortality, hit subscribe and join us for more legends of the road. And stay tuned. Next time, we're diving into 10 cars that should never have been built. You don't want to miss. Look in! Back at these legends, one thing becomes clear. True durability isn't an accident. It's a philosophy. Whether it was Toyota designing the Hilux to survive deserts, Mercedes over-engineering the W123 until accountants begged them to stop, or Dodge dropping a million-mile Cummins into a farm truck, these cars weren't chasing trends. They were built with respect for the driver and faith in engineering. In a world where modern cars are often weighed down by fragile electronics and planned obsolescence, these machines remind us of something timeless. Strength, simplicity, and endurance always outshine flashy gimmicks. Each one tells a story, not just of miles traveled, but of families carried, jobs done, and adventures made possible. They didn't just move people from point A to point B, they became part of their lives. Trusted companions in every season and every challenge. Maybe that's the real lesson. Cars like the Land Cruiser, Crown Vic, and Volvo 240 endure because they represent more than steel and engines. They embody human determination to build something that lasts. And in today's disposable world, that spirit feels more valuable than ever. If you enjoyed this countdown of indestructible legends, don't forget to hit like, drop a comment with your own high mileage car story, and share this video with your fellow gearheads. And of course, subscribe so you don't miss our next journey into the cars that shaped history.